Thank you, Joel, for renting these scooters for us. Yeah. This is how we hunt mushrooms in Utah. Every black bump is a morel, not a pine cone. There are so many. We have to be extremely careful where we step so that we don't step on the teeny little primordia popping out of the ground. Looks like a deer got this, trampled it. Hide your morels. There's a bunch that we hid about a week ago. They were teeny, so I'm gonna give them a little bit more time. They grow slower here in the Canyonlands of Utah, but in certain places like this, the population density can be extremely high. There are definitely more over here. But I'm going to loop back and get a little bit of video of this other connected part of the flush. Where? Yeah, just a bunch. Awesome. This flush is really just begun, even though it's a couple weeks old. And you can tell by the ripeness of the morels. It seemed like they were gonna dry out, but then we got a lot of rain 1 to 3 times a week for the last couple of weeks. And that definitely helped to rehydrate all of these primordia that likely would have shriveled up otherwise and are now growing in size in this nice little hidden, hard to access location that we keep an eye on, because if you nurture the morels and you provide them the time and the habitat that they need to thrive, then they will. Oh man, why are they more noticeable when it's dark? I hit so many today, and I'm just flying by more. I'm so glad people don't look up when they're mushroom hunting. Oh, what's that? What's that? Hold up. Certain colors need to be investigated. Oh, moss. Old moss. Getting dark. Gotta go. Rent an electric scooter. If you like not spending 90% of mushroom hunting on your way to where you mushroom hunt, I would prefer to spend 90% of the mushroom hunting time in the location that I mushroom hunt, and only, 10% or less of the hunt time for travel, if possible. But this definitely speeds things up. Consider being responsible, because the wheels of anything can destroy trails if it's brittle. And as you can see, this stuff on the left, pretty slopey and brittle, but man, it's just covered with morel mushrooms. Mostly Morchella snyderi, Morchella brunier. We did locate what appeared to be some Morchella rufa brunier today. I've found Morchella americana here as well, and Morchella tridentina. People like to say it doesn't exist here, but the morphological consistency, very specific morphotypes that we find here, they're distinct from each other. It's obvious. So I've done a lot of photographic documentation this year to show comparisons between the different types of morels here, the different species, and what is likely different phenotypes within one species. And I will try to group them together in their clades, and it's gonna be just so fun. If only the Earth completed a day in a 48-hour period, I would just be able to get so much done. Or even a 36. I mean, can't we compromise? Why does everybody have to, sleep all the time? A little, yeah, definitely. I do that, but no. Just 8 hours or more a day in order to be a functional person. That's functional, being asleep for a significant percentage of your existence. I'm just a really light sleeper. I do enjoy sleep, especially when I'm really tired, obviously, but can't help it. Yeah, get your sleep, kids. Whee! Ooh. Watch out for the gravelly areas and slow down on the turns, and visually avoid rocks and avoid them. And when it gets crazy bumpy, consider dismounting your electric scooter. Unless you got skills. Well, yeah. I told my wife that I would not die, and that I would also attempt to not get injured. I did totally get injured. Just, some scratches. Oh, shit. Where was it even from? It hurts right now. I had to blast it with isopropyl. It's like on my elbow, and it's going through the bushes for morels, and sometimes I just go because they're not always inconvenient, easy to get to places. And unfortunately in Utah, when it's after when it's late May, early June, you're gonna get a lot of the low brush canopy in the canyon, and that's a really great time to when you return to locations that you go back to regularly, your honey holes, then make sure that you just look underneath the bushes. I found so many morels just under leaves where, from my human perspective, almost 5'11", I can't actually see them, right? Morels are much shorter than that, and it's a good idea to just slow down when you know that you're in a morel habitat and might be at the right location. I really try to gauge as I ascend up the mountain, because really what you're doing with morel mushroom hunting and with certain other species of mushrooms, they flush up the canyons. And so I'm being specific to the Canyonlands. And what that means is that, the higher the elevation, the longer it takes for all of the ice and snow to melt. And so that's continuously adding moisture. And in dry places like Utah, we get a lot of microclimates. And so that's what you're looking for. Not just trees by water. If there were a couple of things you needed to focus on, and you lived in Utah or a state like Utah, what I would focus on, first of all, is downloading an app like iNaturalist and maybe a few others, and just play around with them, get to know them, find the one you like. And I really like iNaturalist because it's just an easy way for me to document and then manage all sorts of information on different organisms. Almost all, most of the observations coming up on 2,000, but in reality it's more like 5 because I do a lot of group images. Most of them are Morchella, different species of Morchella, and that is an important part of my research because we're looking at population abundance and distribution annually in contrast to annual meteoric precipitation, snow, rain, so on. And we collect other environmental parameters, which I'll elaborate on probably in another video. But what you're doing really is you're following the flush up the mountain. So a lot of people start low and then they go high. And what that means is that you're increasing in elevation. And it's interesting because I will find morel mushrooms on every direction of slope, which means, I'll find it on mountains and canyons and hills and so on that are facing in any direction. And some pretty extreme slopes. We recorded quite a few 70 to 90 degree slopes this year in places where there were some that were incredibly difficult and arguably dangerous to get. You had to climb up or climb down or get creative in other ways. But there were some that we straight up could not harvest them because they were physically inaccessible to the people in the group who were like really good at actually climbing around all sorts of stuff. And safety first, don't ever do anything that you feel uncomfortable with as far as hiking. So another great trick, and this will work in quite a lot of states, any that have mountains, I would highly suggest that you keep an eye out for where any snow melt runoff is. This stream, river, creek, whatever you want to call it to the side of me, is primarily fed from snow melt water, and that means that it will actually vary in height. And so I don't want to say tide, but the height, because it's not based on the moon, it's based on the snow melt. So the height of the water will increase as the snow increases in melting volume, right? And then as the snow finishes melting, then the height of the river stream decreases, and that's when they become a lot more crossable. When they're higher, it's crazy. These aren't whitewater rapids, they're brown when it starts happening. And this is actually a super mild day after it started significantly decreasing. When you come earlier in the season, for this particular canyon, when I was here in March and April, it was so loud, this river over here, and brown, that it was deafening. You couldn't hear anybody. And so me and my friend Joel, who is my primary citizen scientist research team member, he comes out with me often, and we were like yelling. We were like, what? But yeah, I personally don't cross unless I know it's a very safe crossing point. It's sturdy on both sides, and I feel confident physically that I can make it without getting hurt, because there have been times where I felt confident and I got hurt. So I just try to take extra precaution and make sure that I make it home alive with family. Today was nuts. I think it might, I'll have to weigh everything when I get home and clean it up, but I think it's another 10-pound day in the same canyon. Sorry if the camera's wobbly, using a carabiner to latch my cell phone to my shirt while I electric scooter down the mountain. Oh, I hope that makes for a really sick clip out shot later. Maybe this one will be good. Yeah. I have no idea if it's actually getting the handlebars in the shot. There we go, that should do it. Get the river over there. Get the beautiful plants over here and the trees. Oh, I just love this place. The air tastes amazing. I really hope that these dead trees are safely cut down and preferably grinded up and just left to contribute to the organic matter in this area, or whatever, they use it for campers and stuff. Some of these trees are infected with cryptocarpus. I'll have to check the name, but it grows on quite a lot of the dead conifers in this area. This is a fun location. I find so many morels just on the side of the road that so many people hike by. I wish my kids would still come with me. They're burnt out on it. Last year, yeah, we went all over. Now I have a different strategy for finding morels, and it's much less blind searching, random, aimless stuff. I don't just look up a location on a map and go, that looks good, because oftentimes those images are not reflective of the foliage, the current canopy, sometimes even fires. They can be quite outdated even from Google Maps in certain locations. So I try to get to know an area. Oh, there's some beautiful Artemisia here. Some herbaceous sage. What was the name of that one? Artemisia sylvan something? Sylvania? I'll have to look it up. Yeah. Oh, bumping. It worked for a minute. Well, I haven't seen Joel's body, so it was either carried off or he made it home. Yeah, I really like the herbaceous sage. It's really nice. Alright, I fixed ya. Everything is okay. Yeah, I need to get one of my proper phone mounts for these extended video outdoor adventure journeys. Join us next time, when we are definitely gonna find a tremendously huge amount
of morel mushrooms, which taste like steak, and by the way, are definitely not psychoactive. You don't need to think that all mushrooms in the entire universe are psychoactive. Every time people find out that I do research with fungi, the last like 3 people who, bless their souls, they just didn't know a single thing about biology. But no, not all of the fungal kingdom is the same species. In fact, there are quite a lot of different species of fungi, and less than 1% of 1% of them contain psychoactive substances. Many more of them, much higher percentages, contain pharmacological and nutritious compounds or toxins. And that's what I like to study. You know, what different alkaloids, terpenes, and phenolics do to the human body, and is that something that is nutritious or could offer some sort of medical remedy or treatment. And by studying the physical chemistry and molecular genetics, you can essentially figure out what different molecules do to human beings. And I think that that is super interesting. So that's how we discover new medicines, and it's also how we discover which things are toxic. For example, morel mushrooms are one of, if not the very most toxic mushroom that we find in Utah. And every species is that way until you cook it, which decarboxylates the toxins. And many of its close relatives in the Gyrometra and Verpa are the same way, you know, where if you eat them raw or undercooked, they could actually contain a lot of toxins. And it's a really good idea to not eat raw mushrooms, because they, my mycologist professor during my undergraduate science degree program said that all fungi are mycotoxic. And that doesn't mean that they're all going to kill you, but it means that they all have the genetic capacity to biosynthesize toxins. Now, whether they're at a concentration and volume or mass that is enough to have a negative effect on your body is another thing. Here's that beautiful Artemisia. I'll probably collect some next time. Let it grow a bit. It's so pretty. Be great for a native garden. Love that stuff. Bugs hate it, by the way. Anyways, I will probably have to voice over once I remember what I was talking about. I'm focusing on safety more than anything. I hope you're enjoying my mountain journey, focusing more on looking forward than keeping the phone straightened out. But that looks like it's the gate. Oh goodness. You actually didn't see the whole trip. Probably saw like half of it. Someone's here. There we go. Made it back. I'm probably about to get 18 messages, one after the next. Thank you for joining me.